Hey everyone, Anthony DiGiovanni here with another video from SacredU Philosophy. Today's topic, it's a commonplace term and it's widely used in the vernacular of our culture. It's something that we were taught, I think, at a young age, or maybe learned at a young age, maybe never really taught, and it's stuck with us, but I don't know how prevalent it is for young adults and on. And the topic today is self-esteem. So if you find yourself today watching this video battling with finding people to respect who you are and who you identify as, if you find yourself at odds with the world around you and its lack of being able to validate who you identify as, who you are and your own self-worth, then we got to talk about self-esteem. I think all those issues that you're dealing with tie into this little word that everyone knows, but I'm not sure we truly know what it is about and what it was meant for. So today, we're gonna dive in to self-esteem and what it is. All right, let's get it. Okay, so back in like 1990, there was a California task force that was formed in an attempt to standardize a spectrum of self-esteem in hopes that people would accept more self-responsibility. This task force was started by state legislator John Vasconcellos, and he was most primarily heavily influenced by the human potential movement, and the human potential movement furthered and progressed ideas built upon by the psychologist Abraham Maslow. Now Maslow, the psychologist, was famous for his concept that he created called the hierarchy of needs. And in this hierarchy, right, so if you know what a hierarchy is, it's basically just a system that orders things by preference, okay? So you have levels to it. And in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, at the bottom was the most animalistic of needs, right? So like basic stuff like like food and water, like the most basic human needs, okay? At the middle of the hierarchy was social needs. We are social creatures as humans, so we derive a lot off of the back and forth interactions between our society and the culture around us. So that's the middle. And at the top of the hierarchy was this thing that Maslow called self-actualization. Now, through this whole concept, Maslow argued that most people actually don't even ever reach that top hierarchical need, self-actualization, because they highly underestimate their greatest potential. They don't actually really self-actualize how good they could be. So that's where the human potential movement swoops in, and Vasconcellos and the California task force he started, they realized, okay, if people aren't able to fully reach their greatest potential by because they don't realize how good they could be, well, they saw self-esteem as the perfect vehicle, a seemingly perfect vehicle to help people reach self-actualization and in turn accept more responsibility, self-responsibility, like personal responsibility. I don't inherently disagree with this aim, right? Like I do believe personally, like the alms, the potions, the healing to most issues we have in life are an acceptance of responsibility. I did a video on mimetic desire. It's one of my first videos actually, and I talked about how when we're constantly blaming people, picking scapegoats out of people because of the things going wrong in our life personally and societally, what you're actually doing is giving over power. You're giving over choice you're giving over responsibility to the people you're blaming. So it's literally an avoidance of responsibility to pass blame. I'm not saying blame shouldn't be passed. Sometimes, obviously, that's why we have law, that's why we have justice, and it's why we have guilt, right? There's a difference between guilt and shame. It's a whole nother video, but like we feel like that was evolutionarily built inside of us to feel guilt when we've done something wrong. So obviously there's blame to be had. But I'm saying in your own life, it's actually healthier to, instead of, if you have two paths, instead of choosing the path that goes down, constantly pointing the finger, constantly blaming other people, you're basically adopting a stance of avoiding responsibility down that path. Or you can go down the path that's accepting of responsibility, taking on as much responsibility as you can, right? So when something goes wrong at work, even if you had probably zero blame, find somewhere where you could have done better, you could have helped the other person, right? If you take that stance, people are actually going to like you more, and it's actually going to make things easier for you. It's harder internally because naturally we don't want to put blame on ourselves, but it's easier for you. So all in all, I'm sidetracking here. The human potential movement and Vasconcelos and the California task force that created self-esteem were trying to get people to accept more self-responsibility. And so they thought self-esteem would be the perfect vehicle for that, right? If it could get people to have more self-esteem, they would accept more responsibility. Okay, so to even get there, you have to define what self-esteem is, right? And again, this all happened back in the 1990s. So the task force defines self-esteem as this. I'm going to read it from my phone. I got this definition from Identity by Francis Fukuyama, great book. But anyway, they defined self-esteem as this. Being alive as a human being has an innate importance, an importance to which the authors of the Declaration of Independence referred to when they declared that all people are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. This conviction concerning the dignity of every human personality has long been part of our nation's moral and religious heritage. Here we go. Every person has unique significance simply because the precious and mysterious gift of life as a human being has been given. This is an inherent value which no adversary or adversity can take away. So that's how the task force defined self-esteem. Essentially, to sum it up, at the foundations of our culture, it's that people inherently have significance. So this all traces back to some ancient thinking, but I'll start with Rousseau. Rousseau was the philosopher who taught that we have a distinct inner self, and this inner self is born with creativity and is dignified and is valuable, and that no person can be more valuable than the other because our inner selves are all at the same value, right? So Rousseau started that, and then it fell into the Declaration of Independence. Some of the founding fathers built on that whole idea. They read Rousseau, they knew this. And I know, yes, historically, at the time when all men are created equal was written, that it didn't really legally pertain to everybody. There were still hundreds of thousands of slaves, but I've actually been reading about this a lot lately. It's just so funny that it happened like this, that I've been in a big founding fathers kick. I've been reading a lot about the founding fathers, and more specifically Thomas Jefferson and others. And these guys were reading this stuff, and they as they were writing these things, the Declaration of Independence and stuff, they had their eyes on a future. Like, we can read their journals, and they had their eyes on a future where there was no slavery. And they actually saw slavery as contradictory to their ideals of their like patriotic and revolutionary ideals. They didn't think it fit. It's just they were kind of they imagined that their hands were tied and doing anything at the time, and they hoped that the American, freedom, the freedom of America and the patriotism of the people would eventually, eradicate it, which, I guess they weren't wrong. It just kind of took too long. And anyway, that's a whole other video. What I'm getting at, ultimately, is that this idea that you and I, inherently, we have value, we have purpose, because we're breathing humans, is ancient. It starts, I think, really with the Judeo-Christian values, and it fled through Rousseau, and then it found its way to sink into the Declaration of America. So it's been around for a while, and these men wrote that you inherently have value, you inherently have dignity, and they did not use that word lightly. Inherently means that it's literally cemented inside of you. Nobody can take it away. Nobody can take away that value. It's in you. You're born with it, right? So you inherently have the value and the dignity of every human being, and we all have it. Every man, capital M, right? Mankind has that. This whole concept is just crazy, because this is what I've been trying to tell the kids that I coach and teach, and people in my life, peers and whatnot, family, that feel like they're valueless, feel like they have no meaning. I've been trying to tell them this idea, this concept that we inherently already have it in us. And just due to the fact that you're a living, breathing human, you already have a value. And that's what I'm telling you today. If you don't think that, you don't think that you have value, you don't feel dignity, you don't feel motivation, you think you have low self-esteem, I'm telling you right now, it's already inside of you. You're looking in the wrong places. You gotta look inward, okay? But maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you're sitting there saying, this sounds like fluff to the person who's actually truly hurting or truly feeling lost. And I understand that. I hear you, and I've heard that before. But the only fluff I see is actually the word itself, self-esteem. I've seen that word too many times, especially in adolescence, in our adolescence. be used as an excuse. It's become more than just a term. It's become an excuse to fall on, right? So example of this is maybe someone when they're young gets told they have low self-esteem, or maybe they discover that for themselves, right? They hear that term and like, oh, I identify with that. I have low self-esteem. The problem with that is that it immediately caps off any potential they had, right? Because you can constantly now, fill in the blank, right? Like, well, I don't want to go out and make new friends. I have low self-esteem. I can't. It becomes an excuse. And it's dangerous. It can cement you into where you're at now. You'll never grow. You'll never see that potential if you're constantly using that as a crutch. It's the same reason why, I've heard this, I'm not the only one that says this, but it's the same reason why you shouldn't write a child off as shy when they're young, right? When they're afraid to talk. Because once the child hears that, and children, like, we as children, like, we're social animals, like I mentioned earlier. So we're constantly listening and receiving socially to the environment around us on the feedback of who we are, right? And we have, that idea forms in us over time, internally, who I am, who I identify as. But you're kidding yourself if you don't think part of that's formed externally. And that has its own strengths and pros and cons to that as well. What I'm getting at is, a child hears that their parent or another adult labeled them as shy because they don't want to talk right now. Well, for most, it becomes what I just said, what low self-esteem becomes, an excuse. Well, now I don't have to talk to adults when I don't want to because I'm shy. That's who I am. And it becomes their identity. So we have to be very careful with the words we use. Very, very careful. And I would say that, again, going back to the person that thinks me telling someone that they already inherently have value and dignity is fluff. Like, what's the alternative? To tell them that, well, they're just bad, they have low self-esteem right now? That they're shy, and it's like, I don't want that to be our identity. I'd rather feed you an identity that's already there. It's not just my belief; it's the belief of thinkers way before us. I mean, some of the greatest minds in humankind, right? These men were smart. The ones before us, they thought this about you too, and it's that you already have value and dignity. You just have to realize it. When I decided to do a video on self-esteem, I really thought about it, and I was like, that seems like such a empty word. I'm glad I was able to, like, learn and do the research on, like, where it came from and what it is, because, like, we know the word, but do we really know what it is? Like, think about that. Unless you're going to school for psychology, I doubt you ever really, like, dive deep into it. But I remember kids talking about it when we were young, and now as an adult, on the flip side of it, things I've learned and how I'm living life, like, I see it kind of as like an electric word. It's got a little bit of a shock to it. It's a bit sharp. It's got points that I think we need to be careful when we approach it, right? Because like I said just prior, I don't want it to become an excuse, and we need to realize that self-esteem, if it's going to be on a spectrum, right? If you can have good or bad, that's two aims. So you're creating a spectrum there. If it's going to be on a spectrum, that means it can fluctuate. And the problem with that is, that's fine and dandy for self-esteem, but your value and your dignity does not fluctuate. It's concrete, it's stone, and it's built inside of you. And it's already there. Nobody can take that away from you. Nobody can. And it doesn't change from one day to the next. You're not more valuable tomorrow than you were today. I mean, you could be more valuable in a materialistic sense to the people around you. Obviously, you don't want to be bringing everybody down. But at its core, at its base, every human being has some type of unidentified, blurry-edged dignity and value. And if you're feeling valueless, you're feeling meaningless, you're feeling like you have low self-esteem, low motivation, I want to tell you that you're looking out into the dark. If you want that to change, because that's the first question I would ask anybody, do you want it to change? Maybe you don't right now. Maybe you're not ready for that. Maybe you don't want to take on the responsibility to change it, and that's fine. That's okay. But if you do want it to change, I want to let you know that you're looking out into the dark in the distance for a light that you're never going to find out there, because the light is already inside of you, the light that you need, the light that you're looking for. Your value is already inside of you, okay? What I'm saying is, guys, you have a part to play. I say this a lot to the kids that I teach and coach and everybody, really. You have a part to play in this story that is your life, in the story that is the life of your family and your friends, your society, and our world. You have a part to play. So you need to realize that, because it's through the realization that you're already valuable that you can have the freedom to choose to live a good, moral life. It's not the other way around. You don't live a moral, value, good life, however that's defined, and then you become valuable to someone, or valuable to reality. It's the other way around. You got to realize that you're valuable already, and you have a purpose. I don't know what it is yet. We can find it, and I encourage you to make that a mystery. Life is a great mystery. It's crazy that you're even alive right now. Like, the odds of you being born are so few and far between. I mean, this has been proven scientifically and with empirical data. The odds are few. You were born. So it's a great mystery that you're even alive right now. Now, choose to be a detective and find out why. Find the why you're alive right now. And that's what I do every day. It's a great game. And the funny thing about that, this game's never going to end. It can go on, and you can keep finding out who you are and what you're meant for. And little piece by piece, as you go throughout the life you're living and enjoying it, find a piece to the puzzle that is you and your purpose. Okay? I hope that helped, guys. And thank you for watching. Hey, there you are. You made it to the end of the video. I'm so happy for you, and I hope this helped. I hope this video maybe changed your perspective on yourself and your self-esteem and where you're viewing yourself right now. I want to tell you, if it did help a little and you need more, or maybe it didn't help at all, and you're willing to give me another chance, I have a worksheet made up for you right now. The link to that worksheet is going to be in the description of this video down below, so you can click on that. It's nothing complex. I always try to make it simple, and it's literally just a couple questions, a couple ideas, a couple concepts to get your mind in the right place, to start choosing responsibility and start choosing to change your self-esteem meter and start finding value and purpose in your life today. Okay, guys, as always, if you could like, share, comment down below. That's the one. Like, I love comments and I want to talk. I'm doing this because I want my ideas to be challenged. I want to talk to you guys. I want to have a conversation. So comment, please. I encourage it, or message me if not. I love the messages too, the personal messages and the messages on social media. And that's another thing too. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, the big ultimate one, hit that subscribe button. If you haven't already, hit the little bell so you can know when I post new videos, and we can keep trying to solve the mystery that is life. All right? I appreciate you guys stopping by, and I will see you soon.